Alright, so I finally finished the book, and wow, that ending, I was not expecting that. I knew something was going to happen to McMurphy, but I wasn't expecting him to get lobotomized. I was pretty shocked, but this tragic ending for McMurphy has kind of a hopeful ending for Chief, and finally I understand how this story ties into the biblical allusion that I mentioned in the second video. In one of my earlier videos, I noticed that there was a sort of biblical allusion that Kesey included when he talked about the table in the shock shop being shaped like a cross. I felt that this was significant, so I tried to explain it by saying that the patients were sacrificing their sanity. However, while I was totally right about this being a significant point, I didn't have the scope of the allusion's role in the book, or understand that this was in fact centered around McMurphy. In the Bible, in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there's a constant battle between good and evil, which would be Jesus and the devil and McMurphy and Nurse Ratched, with the cross in the shock shop representing Jesus' ultimate sacrifice. Throughout the book, there are many comparisons of McMurphy to Jesus that I originally didn't pick up on, but now that I've read the whole book, I understand them a bit more. McMurphy's time in the ward is compared to Jesus' life, with his entrance at the beginning of the book being like Jesus' birth, where he brought light and joy into a solemn society, and his lobotomy being like Jesus' death on the cross, where he sacrificed himself to save the world from sin. In this case, McMurphy is attempting to save the world from the Combine. When he first arrives, he greets everyone with joy and laughter, bringing light into this dull place in the same way Jesus brought light into the world with his birth. As we go through the book, we see McMurphy teaching the other patients to live their lives as individuals by being an individual, in the same way that Jesus taught the people on earth to live the way that God wants them to by living in this way. Both Jesus and McMurphy are able to heal the sick, with Jesus healing those with physical ailments like lepers, while McMurphy heals those with mental illnesses, which is seen when he gets Chief to talk to him. However, both are strained when they realize the massive amount of people that are crying for their help. When surrounded by hundreds of lepers, Jesus cries out that there's too many of them and too little of him for him to be able to heal them all. McMurphy, on the other hand, is haunted in his dreams, where he sees faces, just faces. And these are the faces of the people who are looking to him for healing and leadership. After a while on the ward, McMurphy starts to gain some patients as followers in the same way that Jesus gathered disciples. When they go on the fishing trip, Kesey makes it known that there are 12 people with McMurphy, just like the 12 apostles. I believe that some of the patients even represent some specific apostles, like Billy Bibbit represents Judas, because he was one of Jesus' closest followers until he betrayed him and then killed himself out of shame. Billy Bibbit viewed McMurphy as his special friend and hero, and he was one of the few people that still believed in him when Nurse Ratched was trying to tell the patients that McMurphy wasn't really as good as everyone thought he was, in the same way that the Pharisees tried to condemn Jesus. However, when Nurse Ratched finds Billy in bed with Candy the prostitute, she threatens to tell his abusive mother, and he forgets all loyalty and he cries out, "Please, it was McMurphy who told me to do this, please do not tell my mother." She refuses to not tell her, so Billy ends up killing himself in the same way that Judas Iscariot did after condemning Jesus. Ratched scolds McMurphy for thinking that he can gamble with human lives as if he thought himself to be a god. Chief says that the next thing that happened was something that none of the patients could stop from happening. McMurphy got up from his chair and punched Nurse Ratched, and he ripped off her clothes so she became exposed and began strangling her out of fury. Chief says the reason why none of the patients could stop him from doing it was because they were the ones making him do it. Their need for liberation from the confinement of the Combine was what led McMurphy to sacrifice himself for him, to keep going long after his humor had been parched dry between two electrodes. And in this same way, Jesus died on the cross so that we would be able to live. So McMurphy is lobotomized on the cross, and while he isn't actually dead, his spirit is gone. Most of the patients have left the ward, seeing as Nurse Ratched doesn't have much authority to keep them there anymore. However, McMurphy still has one apostle left on the ward when he comes back 3 weeks later lying on a gurney completely expressionless. And that's Chief, who I believe is Simon Peter. Jesus told Peter that he would be the rock on which his church would be built, and McMurphy has been building Chief up so that he's bigger and stronger, and now, at the end of the novel, he is able to continue on McMurphy's mission, to end the Combine. He killed McMurphy so that Nurse Ratched couldn't use him as an example, and then he went and grabbed the huge control panel, which represents his newfound strength in himself, and he throws it out the window and escapes. He runs away, deciding to see if he can find other Indians that are resisting the Combine as well. In the end, the Combine, like the devil, still exists in society, but now there's hope of fighting it. This incredible book that I recommend everyone read examines the battle between good and evil, and even though McMurphy dies, good still triumphs because of the hope that's left over after his death. Thanks for watching.